You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button.
All right, we begin with the transfer portal because why not? It's that time of year, and every day you're probably going to see a new entrant into the portal for LSU. Reminder, the transfer portal officially opens on Monday, December 9th. So everyone announcing right now is just announcing their intention. They will officially show up in the portal and be able to be contacted and all of that on Monday. Although, yes, all of that stuff goes on behind the scenes and tampering and things of that nature. We're all aware of that. But 3 more LSU Tigers today. It was 4. Matt Zenitz, originally with the report from 247 Sports that 4 LSU Tigers had entered the transfer portal, but Demarion Johnson contacted the Advocate, spoke with Wilson Alexander, and said, no, I actually have not entered the transfer portal. So 3, not 4. Those 3 are linebacker Xavier Atkins and cornerbacks Bernard Causey and Jair Brown. Let's kind of take them one by one. We'll start with Xavier Atkins because that's a really, I don't know, it's not unsurprising, and we'll get into why, but at the same time, a little bit surprising because of how high LSU was on Xavier Atkins. So just wrapped up his freshman season at LSU. You might remember 4-star linebacker out of Texas, coming out of high school, was ranked a top 25 linebacker in the nation, commits to LSU. When Harold Perkins went down with the ACL, Brian Kelly was asked at his Monday press conference, how do you replace Perkins? Okay, you've shown you want to play 3 linebackers on the field, and it was thought, okay, you're going to go back to the 4-2-5 a little bit more, bring the star back into things, but if and when you need to go back to 3 linebackers on the field, who is that guy? And the first name, number 1, first name out of Brian Kelly's mouth was Xavier Atkins. And all in all, he ended up playing in 7 games. But, of course, we all know, down the back half of the season, it was Devon Keys, another freshman linebacker, who really took those reps and emerged as a guy for the future for LSU. So given that scenario of Keys passing him up, everything that you have returning at linebacker next year in both Weeks brothers and, again, Devon Keys, and the potential for Harold Perkins to return to LSU as well, add in what you brought in with the recruiting class, Charles Ross, Jaden Breaker, Keelan Moses, on and on and on and on and on, it makes a lot of sense that a guy like Xavier Atkins would seek another opportunity. And if you're LSU, okay, I think you're good with that at this point because you're pretty loaded at linebacker going forward, and it could get even better if and when Harold Perkins decides to make his decision and make his decision public. But linebacker, I think you feel pretty good at. Cornerback's the interesting one. So let's look at Causey and Brown here real quick. Bernard Causey, obviously, that's a name everyone should be very familiar with. If you aren't, a refresh on the situation with him coming into LSU. He was a consensus 3-star out of John F. Kennedy down in New Orleans, a one-time Ole Miss commit, and LSU flipped him pretty darn close to signing day, if not on the traditional signing day for the 2024 cycle. And there was a lot of buzz around him as well. He was kind of one of those rising 3-stars and a guy that Corey Raymond really liked, right? And he's going to come in and he's got the potential to play early for LSU, but you get into fall camp and he just wasn't popping. And in fact, it was yet again another freshman in P.J. Woodland that kind of passed him up. And P.J. Woodland got a lot of time in 2024 for LSU, while Bernard Causey didn't play a single snap for the Tigers. So again, makes sense for him to move on. Jair Brown, kind of in that same boat. Jair Brown was a transfer from Ohio State, and we're all, very well versed in Ohio State's history, and especially recent history, of putting defensive backs in the NFL and really quality ones. Like when you were having the DBU debate, it was always 3 schools that tried to get in it: LSU, Ohio State, and Texas. And then Florida for really no reason. But LSU, Ohio State, and Texas. So we're all, you're going to, Ohio State cornerback coming in. That could be something. Jair Brown, veteran presence. Can he be the guy to step up day one and maybe start opposite of a guy like Zy Alexander? Ultimately, the answer was no. That ended up being Ashton Stamps and in some cases, P.J. Woodland. And you even saw Sage Ryan at cornerback before Alexander was fully ready to return. In all, it's just 3 games for Jair Brown at LSU, all in the non-conference. This is going to be his second time in the portal. He's looking for that opportunity, okay. The bigger picture around that, the actual point around that is the cornerback position now at LSU, because it can go really one of 2 ways. You can look at this in 2 different veins. The first one is, all right, you got Ashton Stamps back, who really took a step forward here in his second year at LSU. Had some ups and downs, like he gave up plays, but he also had a very short memory and made a lot of plays. Ashton Stamps was a really good player for LSU this season opposite Zy Alexander, and he should be back. P.J. Woodland, we just talked about him. As a true freshman, had plenty of opportunity, plenty of reps, plenty of time on the field. And you'd expect him, under Corey Raymond, to take the next step next year and be a contributor for you in the secondary. You bring in DJ Pickett, who everyone is expecting to start day number 1 at LSU. And he's certainly got all the skins on the wall to have earned that reputation, to have earned that expectation of him coming in as a freshman for the Tigers in 2025. And then, oh, by the way, not to be, just cast aside, Aiden Anning's the number 1 cornerback in Louisiana. You signed him, and there's thought that he's going to be able to contribute. You can look at this and go, man, yeah, you lost 2 guys, but what you have coming back, you're good. But the other vein to view this through, and the other lens, I should say, I guess, and the one that LSU is viewing this through is, hey, man, you just lost 2 guys out of that room. You got to replace those 2 guys. Cornerback's absolutely going to be a position in the transfer portal that LSU is after. Now, what I will also say in that is everyone's aware of Jakeem Jackson, the kid from Florida who entered the transfer portal, and LSU's absolutely going to be a player there, and they should. Like, that is the name to watch in the transfer portal when it comes to cornerback for LSU. The guy committed to Corey Raymond when he was at Florida. Corey's now here. Great, great relationship, things of that nature. Sure. The other thing I will throw out is LSU has been in the transfer portal for cornerbacks every year since Brian Kelly has been here. And you've really had some strikes and gutters. The first year was great. I mean, Bernard Converse, Mekhi Garner, they stepped on campus. They started immediately. But mixed in there, you've also had J.K. Johnson. You've also had Denver Harris. You've also had Deuce Chestnut. But you've had Zy Alexander, who needed that year and was arguably one of the best cover corners in college football this year. If you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers, he was top 2 in college football. So you had a little bit of strikes and gutters. I'm going to hold off on looking at the transfer portal for LSU. And again, Jakeem Jackson played very well at Florida, was a starter this year, then got hurt, all of those things. So he's coming off injury. And that's been the case with a couple of LSU cornerbacks that you've gotten in the transfer portal. J.K. Johnson comes to mind most of all there. I'm going to hold off on just assuming that the portal guy LSU brings in is a bona fide day 1 starter. Not to say that he won't be, not to say that if it's Jackson that he won't be. Hell, he was a starter for Florida this season before getting hurt, like we said. But it's just been so inconsistent there with what they've done in the portal. Now, again, yes, you can bring up Musso, Corey Raymond, and that absolutely matters. 100% that matters. Corey Raymond hasn't been back more than a year, and he's already signed the number 1 cornerback in the country. Like, that guy's one hell of a recruiter. He's one hell of a developer. We know that about Corey Raymond, and that does change the math, so to speak, if you will, on this. If there's a guy he wants out of the portal, he knows what he can get out of him, okay. But still, just with the large sample size, I'm going to hold back on that. And I'm going to look more at what you do have coming back and what you signed. And you are set up well there. Do you need a body? Absolutely. And they'll go get one. But I like the future of LSU secondary an awful lot, and especially at cornerback. And then, as we mentioned right off the top, Demarion Johnson was originally included in that report from Matt Zenitz. Wilson Alexander confirmed the report, but then heard from Demarion Johnson. He spoke to the Advocate and said, as of now, he is not in the transfer portal. So keep an eye on that. Just 3 Tigers today. Just 3 Tigers. 3 more Tigers, I should say, today. Xavier Atkins, Bernard Causey, and Jair Brown, all in the transfer portal. They will seek new opportunities. The portal officially opens on Monday, December 9th. You don't want to miss the show that day. We will obviously have plenty to talk about.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.